What's up, guys? Welcome to IB Help. Today we're going to be talking about planned and free economies.
So all economies fall into two categories, planned and free. I'll be talking about planned for the first part. So essentially in planned, the government owns everything and all the decisions are made by the government. So as a result, there's a lot of inefficiencies because of the decisions that they have to make. Some of these decisions include wages, prices, and production, and a lot more for the whole entire economy. Also, if you want an example, there's like the USSR. In free economies, it heavily contrasts the planned economies. So in free economies, production is placed in the private hands, and wages and prices are set by the firms in comparison to planned, where all the decisions are made by the state or the government. As a result, economies are much more efficient and there's little shortage or surplus. All decisions are guided by self-interest, which leads us into a next little concept, which is the invisible hand. So the invisible hand is a concept created by Adam Smith and essentially summarizes the concept of self-interest in individuals and in private firms. So an example of this would be if I were to sell a product to you at a high price, and then somebody else that you knew, somebody sold the product to you at a lower price. Out of self-interest, you would buy the product, the same exact product, at a lower price because out of your self-interest, it benefits you. So taking a step back into the broader perspective of things, markets will adjust themselves using the invisible hand, and thus is the reason why we have less surplus and less shortages in the free markets. So let's look at the example of red t-shirts. In a planned economy, if red t-shirts are a fad in contemporary society, maybe they don't have enough time or they don't care enough to allocate enough resources to produce red t-shirts. And thus, this part of the economy and gain from profits from red t-shirts will be lost. However, in a free economy where there are specialized firms that can notice this in areas around them, red t-shirts can be produced right away as soon as they notice the fad. This goes back to the concept of surplus and shortages and how economies work efficiently. So, in free and planned economies, disadvantages exist. Demerit goods and merit goods are types of goods that are in the economy. So, merit goods are essentially good products such as water, bread, and clothing. And demerit goods would be things such as tobacco and drugs. In free economies, demerit goods and merit goods have a misallocation in their production. So ideally in a free economy, or any economy at all, we would like that no hard drugs, for instance, would be provided. But since people behave just as people and their flaws exist, things such as tobacco, cocaine, and marijuana are produced anyways, and in a free economy it would be overproduced. So this is why we call it a demerit good. So in the same way, merit goods are underprovided because ideally in any economy we would like that the people have everything that they need, such as water, food, and shelter. Because of this lack of allocation of merit goods, we would say that the situation is very much like the survival of the fittest, since there's no government programs such as welfare. Another disadvantage of free markets is that resources may be misused or over produced. So let's just say, for example, that there's a pond, okay? And there's X amount of fish in the pond. We would say that there would be certain people who would go to that pond and take more than what they need from that pond and take it for themselves. So in a free market, a lot of things exist that interfere with things such as environmental factors. People, in their own interest, to make as much money as they can, may clear whole entire forests or overfish so that they can make the most profit, but without regard to things such as the environment. So in relation to what was just said, monopolies will exist in economies due to large firms dominating certain markets. So, for example, if, for example, in the pond situation, if a large firm goes in and dominates the fishing industry, or even in the case of the ocean, then it will be very hard for small fishermen or small businesses to enter the same competition because, first of all, the large firms will have much lower prices since they have so much experience and they've been in the industry for such a long time. So this will disincentivize the small boat fishermen from going into the market, and we consider this a disadvantage. So in planned economies, the disadvantage exists mainly in the restrictions. So let's talk about the loss of personal freedom first. So essentially, when the government implements these rules, there will be situations such as fixed wages and employment being guaranteed, and this causes a lack of incentivization for the individuals and firms. So the government will start caring less about very specific situations and will start implementing rules to cover the broad spectrum of them. And as a result, there will be many unhappy specific people. In comparison to a free economy where, let's say for example, notebooks. If there was 2 people in the economy that wanted green notebooks and 8 people that wanted red notebooks, the government would just give everybody red ones. But then there'd be 2 people that wanted green notebooks but got red ones. This is obviously a very basic example, but it gives you perspective of what I mean. So, in collective of all the situations, you would imagine that there's actually a lot of unhappiness between individuals. Also, another disadvantage exists in how economies are actually very, very complicated, as we all know. So it's very hard to plan every single little thing in the economy. As a result, the government will be inefficient at planning the economy. So, to be specific here, governments don't have the same experience as firms in free economies. So in example of the notebooks, the 2 people that wanted the green notebook and the 8 people that wanted the red notebook in a free economy could have just went to the notebook store and got their own notebooks from different brands if one didn't have a certain color that they wanted. So thus, governments will not be able to use their expertise to make the best economic decision in the interest of individuals in the economy. So planned and free economies are mostly theoretical, and in reality, no economy is completely planned or completely free and has some mix of both. For example, in the spectrum that we have created here, the US is one of the countries that is leaning very far towards the free, and the country China leans towards the planned. However, there are certain countries that have a very fair mix of planned and free economies, such as Canada or Sweden. But still, depending on the person, may perceive it as leaning towards planned or free.
The bigger the bill, the harder